just over a week before my weigh-in for my first ever powerlifting meet, and I'm still not down to the weight I need to be for the weight division I declared. Today I'm going to show you how I plan to get down to that weight in just a week. I'm going to show you how I came up with the plan, what the plan is, and why it will work. Well, good morning, folks. We are wrapping up week 18 of the 20-week cut. Today we're going to do heavy leg day, and what that's going to be, this week we've been doing our heavy single top sets with back offs just to try and deload but also go heavy and prep us for the powerlifting meet in a couple of weeks. Well, really, it's like less than 2 weeks. It's just over a week away now. So we're going to start with squat, and we're going to ramp our way up to about 90%, which I think is 340 pounds. We'll do 1 rep there, and then we'll back off to about 80%, and we'll do 2 sets at 310, 2 sets of 3. And then to round us off, just to get some other volume on the rest of our legs, we will do a couple of sets of Romanian deadlift and a couple of sets of single leg standing calf raises. Now, apologies in advance, because for you, I normally do 5 videos a week, but I normally do leg day on Thursdays, and I'm doing it on Friday this week because yesterday I had some scheduling conflicts and work commitments and stuff, and it just ended up that it was going to be hard to squeeze in a workout for me. And normally I would just do it. I would find a way to make it work. But since I'm already deloading this week and it was not super important that I get a full week's of workout in, I decided to just go ahead and take another day of rest so that we could come back today, do legs. And we still have the weekend before we come back and hit legs again, because on Monday I'm going to do rehearsal opening weights for bench and squat. So I am hitting legs on Monday, but again, I've got the whole weekend to recover, so not a huge deal there. Speaking of rehearsal for opening weights and the powerlifting meet, we are just over a week away. That will be next weekend. So we've got just workouts on really small, short workouts on Monday and Tuesday. And I will be taking the rest of the week off with workouts. I still have to figure out what I'll do for videos. Y'all don't have to worry about that. That's for me to worry about. But the thing that I do have to another thing I have to worry about is making weight. So that's the thing we're going to talk about today. I will say I'm in a better position than I thought I would be a week ago. A week ago, I thought I was going to have to do a pretty aggressive water cut. I actually am weighing, I'm on track to basically I'm only going to have to lose a couple of pounds of water weight, which should be very doable. I've read and seen videos of people who have cut 20 to 25 pounds of water weight. So obviously we're not going to have to do anything that drastic, but today I am going to show you what my plan is, how I'm going to manage my calories and my water intake, my sodium and my carbs this week, so that I can hopefully drop a couple more pounds and be well within the weight limit that for the division that I signed up for. So I have until Saturday. That's when the next weigh-in is. So that's a week and a day from today. And then power meet is the day after that. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. And I will show you how I came up with that. Spoiler alert, I used AI. Now, just some other Googling and stuff like that just to double check work. But I'll show you a little bit of what I did and what the plan is and why the plan should work. So I think that's it. I've got my A7 rigor mortis knee sleeves on because I normally don't do my workouts with those, but since we are going to we're preparing for the meet, I want to get used to the equipment that I'm using. This is what I will be doing that in. It's a lot more rigid than my normal knee sleeve, so I want to get used to that, break them in a little bit. So let's get to it. All right, we're going to do similar warm-ups as we did for bench and deadlift. Normally I do 2 sets of 50% and 1 set of 75% of my working weight. Since we're doing closer to a 1 rep max, I'll do more of a ramp up. I'm still going to start out at about 50% here. Got 155 loaded. So that's about 50% of what my normal working weight would be. The only difference is we're going to just ramp up the weight and ramp down the sets as we go up. So I'll still start with 10 at 155 here. Oh, and I forgot that when I'm in the cage here, I have to get rid of these weights on the side because I'll bump them. These are just the fun little idiosyncrasies of having a home gym and just making it work within the space that you have. But no big deal. Ooh, all right. If you've seen any of my other videos on how to use AI to help you plan things, one of the things I say, one of the tips I always say is make it give you something. For me, that's usually like if it's a plan, I say, give me a bullet point list. And I tell it to give me it in Markdown so I can pull it into Google Docs or Notion and I print it out. So here's my plan, right? This is the takeaway. This is what gets me out of my phone and my computer, out of my LLM into the real world. If you had a dedicated app or something like that, notes or something like that would be fine as well. But I just want to get out of the LLM because a lot of times what happens is I come up with a plan and then I ask follow-up questions and then I lose the plan if I'm scrolling back through the conversations. So I like to be able to get an artifact, a tangible asset that I can bring out of it. And so today I'm going to read through the water cut plan. Spoiler, that's it. That's how I'm going to lose the remaining, it's probably about 2 pounds that I need to lose in a week. I'm going to lean into a water cut strategy as opposed to just trying to lose any more fat, because 2 pounds of fat is very aggressive and I don't want to be in a super big calorie deficit this next week because I want to maintain strength as much as possible. Now, this is another thing is I am going to be in a calorie deficit because this next week will be week 19 of my 20-week cut. So I'm fitting in this powerlifting meet into the overarching plan of my 20-week cut. The big disclaimer that I will throw out there is this is not optimal. It is not ideal to do a powerlifting meet during a cut or immediately after a cut. Ideally, you would have an off season where you're building strength, gaining, maybe bulking, and then you would have a period of time, several weeks or months, where you're cutting down to a reasonable weight, or walking around weight, something that you can then easily get to your competing weight by water cutting. So for me, if I'm competing at 181 pounds or about 82 or so kilograms, I would probably do my cut and try and get down to 190 or 185 normally. And that would be my walking around weight. And I would try to maintain that for a while and maintain strength and work on building strength while maintaining body weight, not being in a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit. And do that for several weeks. And then the week before the power meet, I would do a water cut to try and get rid of that 5 to 10 pounds, which is pretty doable. A lot of people can do that. And because that would be less than 10% of my body weight, right? If you weigh 200, 10% would be 20 pounds. So 5% is 10 pounds. So somewhere around 3 to 7% or something like that. Should be doable, not too crazy, not too many health risks with doing that, but I've talked a lot about that. Let's go lift some more weights and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what the plan is, how I came up with it, and what the reasoning is, why it should work. All right, second warm-up set. I just swapped my 10s for 15s, so that's just 10 more pounds. And that's what I wanted to do, a very similar weight one more time at 10 reps. So that's what we're going to do. So there are 3, 4, 5. We've broken it into 6 phases. So let's go through what these phases of the water cut will be. Phase 1 is going to be, we're calling it loading, but I'm going to call it a preloading. And that is really just focusing on setting my baseline for water intake a little bit higher than normal, right? I probably don't prioritize getting quite enough water from day to day. So this is just elevating what's normal. It's not like I'm not drinking 3 gallons or anything like that of water, but I am going to try to get closer to 1 gallon, which or 1.25 gallons, which I probably don't do normally. The second phase is the beginning of next week, and that's the actual loading, or the super load is what the phase is called. And that's where I am going to try and get 1.5 to 2 gallons of water. That's like 5 to 6 liters. Right now, yesterday, it's all I could do to get 3 liters, right? Right now I'm in the preloading phase. So second phase is like, yes, drink a lot of water. The third phase is start tapering. And it's not a long taper. I'll talk about the benefits of tapering versus just snap, full stop on water. So you start trailing your water intake off. And then the phase 4 will be the day before weigh-in. That is almost very little water. We've got the weigh-in day. That's phase 5. And then phase 6 is post weigh-in recovery, right? Which is very important because all of this is for naught if you forget to reconstitute and gain back some of that glycogen and water weight that you lost. So we'll break down each of these phases, what they are, why we're going to do them, and how I came up with them. All right, bumping up weight to 225, and I'm probably going to do 6 to 8 of these. Again, we're going down in reps as we go up in weight. One thing I will do once I get into my higher weights, we get it closer to the single reps. I think I'm going to move the camera over to the side so that we can see my squat depth. That's one thing I haven't really checked in a long time. So I just want to verify that what I am feeling as being a good depth is objectively correct depth. The rule is that your hip joint, if this is my hip joint and this is my knee, has to be below, your hip joint has to be below your knee joint. So this is not going to cut it. This might not even cut it. It needs to be like that. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Before we dive into each of the details of these phases, let me first describe how I came up with this. This is my first ever water cut. It's my first ever powerlifting meet. So I don't claim to be an expert in this. I did research on the Googles.coms, on the YouTubes, and with my friendly Claude AI assistant, right? So I basically just asked, same thing as I always do when coming up with a plan on with AI. I give it the context of who I am, what my training history is, what my goals are, what my calorie intake has been like, the fact that I'm in a cut, and my weight, and all this type of stuff. All this stuff that is relevant that it might need to help me come up with a plan. And then I give it my goal. Here is my target weight for this meet by this date. It's a 24-hour weigh-in. All this stuff, all this context is helpful. Context, goal, and a role. I tell it that you're a powerlifting coach, an expert, and you have a lot of experience with water cuts. And then I give it the context, the role, the goal, and then I expand on the goal. Come up with a plan, the output. Give me a plan that I can take out of you, that I can print out, a plan for cutting water that fits best practices, that has research that backs it up, right? And so that's how I start usually those things. Context, role, goal, output. And then I always have it double check its work. Somewhere in there, right? Hey, are you sure that this works? Check this against research, check this against best practices. Go look on the internet for what other people are doing. Does this align? And sometimes there are mistakes, but then sometimes there are decisions. And that's what I had to do. I found there's competing ideas on whether you should taper off your water intake for a few days or a week, or whether you should stop water intake altogether and let that be your cut. So there are differing opinions on that. And I basically just had to make a decision based on the research. It looks like really what's interesting is, as opinionated as people are on this, both strategies work. So I landed somewhere in the middle. So when we get to the taper, you'll see I'm really only tapering for a couple of days. And I decided to do that because, well, I'll talk about it later, but really, since this is my first one, it seems scary to me to water load and be heavier all the way up until the day before the meet and then cut the water. And then it just seems scary to me. I want to the day before. I don't want to be very over the limit. I want to get a little bit of signal earlier on. So for me, I'm going to start that water cut tapering a little bit earlier. So many of you who are more experienced may say, well, that's stupid. You should just trust the process. Well, if I've done the process a few times, maybe I would trust it more. But since both of these formats are supported by research, I'm going to do this way because I feel like it's going to give me some signal earlier. So, all right, let's get our next set. I'm going to do 2 reps at, what is this, 285, I think. My working weight for volume has been, I think, 305 for a while. So 285 is close to that. Should feel like heavy-ish. 2 reps shouldn't be a problem. Should allow me to continue to get warm. Cool. And now I'm going to move the camera over to the side for these next few heavy singles, ramping up to my working weight so that we can get a gauge on the depth. So if you want more context, more information about how I used AI to come up with the water plan, or how I use AI in general for coming up with weight training plans, nutrition plans, all that stuff, comment. Let me know. I've got a couple of the videos I can point you to, and then I'm also just happy to answer questions. So let me get this camera down here. This is where I think we're gonna be for the next couple of sets. All right, got the camera moved, got my safety pins moved. I realized those were too low. Hopefully we can get a better view of the legs now. Oh gosh, I really hope that what feels like low enough for me is low enough for the judges. Y'all can be the judge of that. See what I did there? It's not really like a pun. It's just like a play on words. The judges, you guys judge. Anyway, all right, so I'm just gonna do one of these at 305. All right. Well, I just watched back that squat and it's got me a little bit worried. I need to go down. I need to feel like I'm going down deeper because I was cutting it pretty close. Maybe it'd be okay, maybe not. I'm going to practice on these next ones, feeling like I'm really going down and sitting in that bottom, because I don't want to have missed marks on my first powerlifting meet. I want to get, want to get it, do it right. But what we're going to do while we're waiting for my rest between sets here, we'll talk about the phase 1. So we talked about how I came up with this water cut plan. I did research on Google. I did watch some YouTube videos, and I did ask AI, and I told you all that. So now let's talk about phase 1. I'm calling this preloading, and this is basically from when I came up with this plan a week ago to this weekend. And the idea is start getting your body a little bit used to a higher baseline of water. So it's a higher water intake from what I normally do. I'm normally about somewhere less than 3 liters, somewhere between 1.5 to 2 liters. Whether or not that's actually enough for what is healthy, you can debate, but it's just how a place shakes out. I started tracking my water this week, and that's how I know. So I'm trying to get the water back up closer to 3 to 4 liters or 1 to 1.25 gallons. Trying to increase my sodium. Again, that's actually kind of easy. If you just eat regular food, you're going to have close to 4,000 or 5,000 milligrams of sodium anyway, and that's the goal. I'm shooting for 120 to 150 grams of carbs, which again, pretty easy to do. Even on a calorie deficit, I'm pretty easily able to get 120 to 150 grams of carbs without really trying, even while getting plenty of protein. So the training is like what would be normal for this week. Normal in relation to a powerlifting prep. So 2 weeks out from a powerlifting, you're probably tapering. You're starting to taper your weights. You're starting to deload. And that's exactly what I'm doing this week. And so the goal, like I said, the goal is basically just to start getting my body used to a higher level of water. And that higher level of water is more than my body needs. And so we're getting my body used to excreting more water. I'm going pee a lot. Guys, I went pee 5 times last night. This is a lesson for you, and it's a lesson for me. I probably should have front loaded my water a little bit better during the day. I got to towards the end of the day. Oh gosh, I still have almost a whole liter of water I need to drink. So I probably drank that within the last couple hours of the day before going to bed, and I paid for it at night. So let this be a lesson to us all. If you're loading your water, try to spread it out evenly. Don't cram it in before bedtime because your sleep will be interrupted quite a bit. All right, so that's the preloading or regular loading phase. Let's hit some more weights and then we'll come back and talk about the super load. All right, I've got 325 loaded on here. This might be the last stop before 340. Gonna really feel like I'm squatting, getting down to the bottom here. Got my safety pins in case I'm not used to that and I fail. So, all right. Well, you probably heard it and saw it. I'm going to have to lower the safety pins a little bit. I think I was a little off balance going down a little bit lower than I normally do. So I need to lower those down so I don't hit those. But I think I'm going to go check it. I think the depth was better. Yes, the depth was better, but a little thrown off by hitting the safety bar. So let's see how we do. We'll throw 340 on here, and that'll be our one set. And then we still have back off sets that we can practice the depth as well. So, all right, while we're waiting for the rest of our rest, let's talk about the super load. Now, now that we've gotten our baseline water levels up, we've increased excretion. This is for just 2 days. We're going to really load the water. So I'm going to shoot for almost 2 gallons of water if I can. So that's like 6 to 7 liters probably. I'm going to increase the sodium even more, 5,000 to 6,000 milligrams. And then that will be on Monday. And that's when I'm going to do my final squat and bench testing. So I'm also going to bump up my calories slightly. I've been lower calories this week to try and catch up on losing weight. But I don't want to be quite in as aggressive of a cut. 1,350 to 1,500 calories is pretty low for me. So I'm going to bump it back up to 1,700, 1,800. What we were doing at the beginning of the cut feels more manageable for me. I can eat more food. It'll be easier to get to that sodium level. So that's Monday. Then Tuesday, same thing for water and sodium and calories. And then since we're getting close, I will probably do deadlift. I might do it light depending on how I'm feeling, or I might try and do a rehearsal. We'll see. Now, really 1.5 gallons, so that closer to 5.5 to 6 liters. It should be okay for my size, my water, my body weight, right? That's how you determine how much water should be good. So it's going to be, I think, just knowing how difficult it's been to get to 3 liters, to get to 5 or 6 is going to be concerted effort, but I'd have 2 days of that. And then after that super load, when I get to basically Monday is the deciding point of whether I need to change anything last minute for the week. So if I'm not down to 183 or 184, which I think I should. Well, I guess I'll be loading water, so I may be more, but I need to be down to probably about 183, 184 to just execute the water cut as planned. If I'm higher than that, then I'm going to have to maybe adjust and add some exercise and sauna, some sweating type stuff. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I will know that when it comes time or on Monday, and then Monday and Tuesday will be a super loading phase, and that will conclude phase 2, which will bring us to the actual cutting of water, which is phase 3, which we'll talk about next. Hold on, I'll be right back. I was going to do this, but give me one sec. Just a quick little bathroom break. I'm feeling good now. I've got 340 loaded. I've got one set of these. Lowered the safety pins. See if we can get the appropriate depth and get a good squat here. I'm feeling uneven, folks. Oh, what did I miss? Something is missing here. What is wrong? I figured it out. I left the 10-pound weight on the left side. Left side was feeling heavier because it was 10 pounds heavier. Gosh, squished my pinky getting that back on too. That sucks. Things happen. Pinkies get squashed. We live and we learn. Let's get this for real this time. Getting sweaty in my knee sleeves. All right. Let's check it. What did you think? I'm about to find out. Was it low enough? Gotta be honest, folks, I'm a little disappointed. I don't think I went low enough on that one. I can be disappointed, but I can also be grateful that I'm catching this now before the meet. So this is something that I know I need to practice and continue to practice it today on my back off sets. I need to break parallel. That hip joint is not going down low enough. I'm probably getting parallel, but the way that I read the rules is that it needs to be clearly the top of the hip joint needs to be below your knee joint. So I don't think that is clear. I think it's questionable at best, and probably just parallel is what's happening, and we need to break it. So we're going to practice. We've got today to practice. We've got Monday to practice. And my goal for this first powerlifting meet is going to be to pick a starting weight that I can at least get one legal registered squat that is low enough. That's going to be when I think about goals for the meet, is just like getting at least a legal lift in each category. That's going to be a good goal. Maybe not even thinking about aiming for total pounds and tonnage and that sort of stuff. So let's go back and talk about water weight. So after we do our phase 1 of loading and our phase 2 of super load for a couple of days, then we start a taper, and it's a pretty quick taper. So it's just 2 days, and so we'll go from 1.5 gallons or 2 gallons of water down to 1 gallon on Wednesday, and we're going to drop sodium down to 3,000 milligrams and carbs back down to 150 grams. And then the next day, which I think will be Thursday, going to be a half gallon. That's less than 2 liters. So that's kind of closer to what my normal water intake would be. But we're going to take down sodium to less than 1,000 grams and carbs less than 100 grams. So that's the taper, just 2 days, just coming back down from 2 gallons down to 1 gallon, down to a half gallon. Now, the last part of the cut is phase 4, and that's the actual cut. That's the day before weigh-in. That's the Friday. And we're going to try to keep water to 24 ounces max. So that's 710 milliliters. So we're going to try and take sips throughout the day only. And I'm going to stop drinking 12 hours before weigh-in. I have an afternoon weigh-in, so it's not till 2 a.m., so I can drink the whole day. But you're hardly drinking. Sodium is 0 salt that day, less than 500 milligrams. It's super hard to do. You have to really plan it out. And same thing with carbs, less than 50 grams. So probably going to be a little bit lower calorie day, because just trying to avoid sodium and carbs is going to, just by nature, mean that the calories are going to be less. But that's fine. We'll just have some, unsalted chicken breasts, maybe some whole eggs, some avocados and almonds for fats. But I'm going to stay away from packaged foods, stay away from anything processed, distilled water, or probably LaCroix to help keep me a little bit full. But that weight that morning should be about really on target, 181.5 to 182.5, so that then the next day should be well below 181.8. So that leads into phase 5, which is the weigh-in day. We'll talk about that next. All right, folks, we've got 2 sets of 3 at 310. Let's use this as an opportunity to practice getting our depth. We're really going to need to just feel like you're just, like I'm touching my thigh to my calf, I think is the cue that I'm going to be looking for here. Let's go. Man, this is a wake-up call for me on squat depth today, so got one more set of these squats to try and practice. But also I just wanted to say, be sure to stick around to the end of the video, regardless of how deep I squat. At the end of the video, I will still do my daily check-in. We'll look at my daily weight and the nutrition from the day before, so you can see what I've been doing to hit my goals or how I've been missing them and what I might adjust. So I do that every workout, so that you can see exactly how I'm trying to fit nutrition into my fitness plans. And because I think that it is overlooked. And I think it's probably as important, if not more important, than your exercises, is what you're eating, how much you're eating, and what the kind of foods that you're eating. So, see you in a bit. All right, last chance today to get some good practice on our squat depth. I'm going to focus on getting my legs a little wider on this one, toes pointed out, see if that helps. All right. Ugh. All right, I've got 2 sets of 6 for these Romanian deadlifts. All right, so we've talked about phases 1 through 4. That's the actual loading and the cutting. Phase 5 is the day of, the weigh-in. It's a 24-hour weigh-in. Mine is in the afternoon. So good news and bad news about that. Bad news is I've probably got to go the whole morning and afternoon without eating or drinking much of anything. Good news is if I wake up and I'm not at the weight that I need to be, I still have the morning to do some sweating, right? So I'll wake up, go to the bathroom, weigh myself, see how we're measuring. If we're on track, great. I'll just maybe have a few sips of water throughout that morning and try to avoid eating much or anything. If I'm a couple pounds over, then I'll probably do a hot bath for 20 or 30 minutes. If I am 3 or 4 or more pounds over, then we're talking an extended sauna session, maybe a little bit of sweat work, maybe on the rower. I don't have a bike, something like that. That's an extreme case. Hopefully we'll be well within our range. So I'm not planning on having to sweat it out at all, but it is good just to have a backup plan just in case. The 2 RDLs. right, everyone's favorite lift, single leg calf raises. It feels so light after squats. All right, so we've loaded water, we've cut water, we've cut, we've done our weigh-in, we made our weight. What's next? Phase 6, post-weigh-in recovery. Now this is immediately after weigh-in. I'm gonna pound some Pedialyte or Gatorade or something, about 32 ounces of that. So our whole goal with this post-weigh-in is just to recover, reconstitute. It's another way to say you want to regain that water, and you want that water not just like in your veins, that's good, but you want it to make its way into your muscles via glycogen. So that's why the electrolyte drink is good, but then also you're drinking water and then you're pounding carbs. So 100 to 150 carbs, and the fast carbs. This is white rice, bagels, bread, Gatorade drinks, bananas, that sort of thing. You want to pound those and get that pretty quick. And then that evening, just like a normal meal with plenty of protein, keep drinking water. It's going to be hard to drink too much water. Your stomach will probably feel full and bloated from all the extra water that you're drinking and all the extra carbs. So not really too worried about that. You're going to feel pretty stuffed. And so at least that's my goal and that's my understanding of it. So that post-weigh-in recovery is going to be really important for being able to perform well the next day. So the next day I'll probably just I normally skip breakfast, but I will have a breakfast since my portion, my meat division flight, that's what it's called, isn't until the afternoon. So I'll have a good breakfast and a regular pretty high protein lunch, decent amount of protein. I'm not going to be too concerned about carbs and fat and stuff at that point because I'm only a couple hours away. I'll take my normal coffee with protein and go to the meet, hopefully feeling strong, hopefully do well, hopefully squat deep enough, folks. Just really worried about that now. I'm going to have my wife come down and look at my squats. I wonder if it looks different on camera than it does in real life. So that is the plan. I want to hear from you. Have you done a water cut before? How has it gone? What went well? What didn't go well? What should I look out for? Are you a fan of the 2-day taper like I'm doing? Or are you a fan of cutting off water just immediately, just the day before, right? So you load, and then day before the weigh-in, that's when you cut. I will say I do know that there are differences in how you do water cuts based off of the type of weigh-in, whether it's a 24-hour weigh-in or a 2-hour weigh-in. So I didn't really go into any of those details. I just focused on my use case for that 24-hour weigh-in. So I do know there are differences in that, but I didn't really pay attention to that too closely during this prep. But that's it. We're going to get one more set of calf raises, and then we'll do our daily check-in. Last set. Oop. I just realized this is the first time I've worn shorts in a while, so maybe a good opportunity to do a physique update on our legs, because I've been neglecting that from the physique updates. So we're not really going to be able to see what they looked like 10 weeks ago or 20 weeks ago, but still good to maybe do a little pump check for leg day. See how we're doing. I do feel like I hold on to a little bit more fat in my like upper thighs, than like my upper body, for example. But you know, still some definition. Definitely some room for growth. But yeah, that's probably really funny to look at. Just my upper body. Let's see if I can get. Not the best at posing, but hopefully that gets the job done. All right. For our daily check-in, let's see, weighed in at 183.1. So we're on track. In fact, we're doing better than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to be still 184, 185 area this week. Our average for the week is below 184, and we've been in the 183s for the past 4 days. So that's a good sign. I'm planning on having a low calorie weekend. I'm not planning on bumping it above 2,000 calories or anything like that. So hopefully we won't really regain any of that water weight. I will be drinking more water than normal, but I feel like my body right now is like, give us the water, we're going to excrete it. We know that you're drinking a lot, so I'm not too concerned about putting on maybe if I'm in the 184, 185 at the beginning of next week, that's fine, as long as I get down to that 183 by midweek. For calories yesterday, a little over 1,700 calories, a little bit more than I had been doing, but we've been on track with weight and stuff. And so I was feeling really hungry, so I decided to reward myself with a couple hundred extra more calories. And really, I was mostly in the morning. That's when I was feeling hungry. I just had these extra rice snacks, 4 of them throughout the morning. Everything else was pretty similar to the other days, just bronze David bar, coffee, beef stick, carrot, yogurt, grilled chicken, apple, salad with light dressing, more grilled chicken. Ooh, here's a new thing. My summer sausage from my deer meat finally came in, so I had some venison summer sausage. I was going to say no fat added, but they do add fat to the summer sausage, but it's still pretty lean. Almost 10 grams of protein per 100 calories. Pickles, because it's free satiation, hardly any calories, and sodium. Look at that, 414 grams or milligrams. Put a piece of bread in here because I had some leftover crust from my son's grilled cheese. Some chicken sticks for a snack, banana for a snack, gum, and a bronze bar for a snack at night, a handful of goldfish. And that was my day. A little bit lower on the sodium, only 3,000 milligrams. I should have probably salted some of this food, and I'll try to do that today. We did hit the carb goal of 120 to 150 grams. We did hit that. And protein was good. 180 grams is like our target. And that's over 10 grams per 100 calories. So that would have been 170 grams. We got 180, which is more. So that is good. So we're on track. I like it. I think that if I just keep this up over the weekend and then execute the water cut the way that we talked about today, I think I should hit my weigh-in goal on Saturday of 181.8. I think it should be doable. My biggest concern for this meet now is, man, after this weightlifting session today is squat depth. So that's something that I'm going to focus on. I'm thinking about practicing. I might do some light practicing this weekend with just like the bar. And then on Monday, going to rehearse that opening weight and see how that goes. If you stuck around this far, thank you so much. Appreciate everyone who watches the videos and comments on the videos. If you have questions about anything, please let me know. I'm happy to answer you. And if you've asked questions in the comments, I will answer. So I'll see you next time. One quick note, no fifth video this week. I think I mentioned that at the very beginning, but didn't end up getting a workout in yesterday. So just 4 videos this week. Enjoy the extra day off, and I'll see you next week.